So what's up guys, and welcome back to another video here on Code Zero. On this video we're going to be continuing our C.R.U.D application. What we're going to be doing today is that we're going to connect our application to the database. We're also going to be creating the Orionconfig.json. We also going to create our tables, create the repository with those two methods over here. Create user service. Shouldn't be service over here. I'm sorry. Create user and find user by email. We're gonna also create our services and our roles. So basically, what we're gonna be doing today is create the part of the user creation of our C.R.U.D. So let's start it. To connect with our database, we're going to be using typeorm, which is ORM for TypeScript. There's a lot of ORMs that you can use, like micro or ORM or other ones that exist. But basically, an ORM is a way to write queries without writing your SQL. You can write SQL if you want, but the meaning of the ORM is to write less and do more. So you can also write SQL in the typeorm, but they have some queries done so that you can use. So first of all, we have to add typeorm. I'm gonna also be needing need to add Postgres because the database they're gonna be using. I'm not gonna teach how to create a Docker container because this is not the meaning of the video. But in a future video, I can record teaching what I know about Docker. So basically, what I have here is a Docker container for Postgres. Running on port 5432. So the application that I'm going to be using to see our database is the Beaver. So the database that we're going to be using here, I'm going to talk about it soon. So now what we're going to be doing is create our Orionconfig.json file. This is the file that we're going to put our configuration to our typeorm connected with our database. I highly recommend you to read the documentation of typeorm, and I will add the link for download to download the Beaver also. So first of all, what I'm gonna do in here is bring the orionconfig.json file. I'm gonna have to give a name to our connection. I'm gonna let default. You can put whatever name you want. There's not that important. I'm gonna give a type for it. The type will be Postgres because the database that we are using. We're gonna have to set a host for it, which is localhost. A port for it, which will be the port for our connection. And username, you can put any username you want. I like to let the default username, which is Postgres. The password for our database, I recommend you to put a decent password, but I will put just Docker over here because this is an application just for the video. The name of the database that we're going to be using here, which is YouTube, and the entities here is like the path to our entities in our application. So basically, entities are the representation of the tables. So if you gotta think like all one entity is basically one table. So, but not all the tables are entities. So if you have a table for user, you're gonna have to we will need to have an entity for users. So I like to put our entities inside our folder source, inside a folder called modules. All the files insert inside all the folders in modules, searching for the folders entities and all the files .ts inside those folders. So now we gotta put the folder to our migration. Migrations basically is a way that you can control the version of your database. So if you create a migration that creates a table, and then this table has like 3 columns, ID, email, and password, and then you have to you have to add a 4th column, which is the number, the phone number. You gotta roll back to create another migration to add this column, or roll back and do the changes that you want. If you need to change like the type of some specific column, you change like for a number type or a string type, you need to roll back this migration. So it's kind of version controls. This is where the migrations will be. So migrations there should be like this. Okay. Source, shared, typeorm, migration. So here, what I'm doing basically is I finished setting up our connection to Postgres. Here on that file, you will put all the connections that you have to do. So if you got a connection with MongoDB, and we gotta put this connection over here, setting up some of those configurations. So when I run the CLI of typeorm, it will create for us a folder inside the source that called shared. This folder will contain a folder typeorm, which will contain the migrations of typeorm. I like to separate things like that because those migrations they are only for typeorm. If in one day in my application I would like to change typeorm to another ORM, I will need to rerun these migrations. Will be necessarily a change for it. So what we're going to be doing is finish this configuration file, and now we're going to create a script to run those migrations over here, because the command for it is it's kind of big. So we got I like to write a script to make easier my life. So I will name the script typeorm, and the command for it is ts_node_dev /node underline modules. Oh my god, node underline modules /typeorm /cli.js. So now that we've done that, if we run yarn typeorm migration create -n, so we can set the name of the migration. We're gonna set it create users. So what we have done by this moment over here, we create we install all our dependencies, typeorm in Postgres. We also create the file orm.json, so we can check it. And we're gonna create now our user table by running our script that we created. I could also run this command over here, but I think it's too big, so I just put it on the script and then run the command migration dot create and minus n create users. And if I run it, you're gonna see what's gonna happen. Inside our folder source shared typeorm migrations, we're gonna create our migration for us. So okay, now what have I done? Migrations, so it create the migration over here. So something is wrong. Let me see what I've done wrong. So the only thing that was wrong over here is because I wrote default wrong. So you gotta run yarn typeorm migration create users, and now we'll create our migration for us inside our folder shared, and inside typeorm we're gonna have a folder called migrations, and yeah, that's it. So now what we're gonna be doing before we create our migration is that we're gonna create our database. Here I already created because I was trying an example before this video here, but I will teach you how to create a database inside of the Beaver. It's really simple after you connect to your Docker container. So all you guys gonna need to do is basically if the Beaver does not crash over here. Oh my god, the Beaver. Okay, so all you guys need to do is, I'm gonna delete this. So you create here the connection, create database, and set the name of your database, and we'll create it for you. Inside schemas public, you're gonna have your tables over here. In our case, you don't have any. So now what we're gonna be doing is to create our first table here on our database. So inside the migration we have two methods: the up method and the down method. Up method, it works. It will run when we run the command to run the migration, and the down method is whenever we need to change something in our table, in our specific table, we gotta run the command that is yarn typeorm migrations rollback, and the command that will be the method that will be running when we run this command is the down method. So it will the up method mount the migration in this method over here, the down method, and mount the migration. So basically that's it. To create our table, we have to do await carry runner create table, new table. They're gonna be importing from typeorm. We gotta give a name for it, users, the name of the table. The columns will be, the first column will be name, ID, type, UUID, UUID, is primary generation strategy, UUID, and default is UUID underline generate v4, which is this is a function. This is a function that have by default in the Postgres database. Sometimes when you create the database, it comes with it, but sometimes not. We're gonna see it when we run our migration. If we face any errors, it will show up an error about this function over here. But I will teach you guys how to install it. Our second column will be our email. So it's unique because I don't want any email that repeats. And the type of it's varchar. Second, we got our password. We got the type of it, which is varchar. And now these two last columns over here, it's kind of optional, but I like to have it because it's a good practice. Is the created at and updated at column, because you can have a control of your data when it was created, when it was updated. So basically, I like to put them to have a control of it. So I'm just gonna copy paste this over here and change the name. Updated at. And now that we have our first table mount, we're gonna mount it. So all we have to do is carry runner dot drop table and pass the name of the table, which is users. So now all we have to do is run our migration. Remember that if you face any errors about this little guy over here, they're gonna show up. So yeah, we got this error which says that does not exist the function UUID generate v4, which I forgot the 4 over here. But so let's see. Okay, does not exist. So it's really simple to install this. You're gonna come over here in your database. So we go to SQL editor, and we're gonna write this command over here: create extension if not exists, and pass this UUID slash minus OSSP. I'm gonna let this on the description, but basically run this and everything should run fine. So okay, it has created, and now if you run our migration, should work just fine. Okay, done. Migration create users. Now come over here, and if you go to our tables, refresh it, bang, we have our first table over here with our ID, email, password, and created it and updated it. Really simple. And now what we're gonna be doing, let's check this out of our to-do list. And we're gonna create our repository. So basically repositories is where you create the methods to interact with your database. So I like to create them, as I told you, inside modules. And inside modules, we're gonna have a folder to with modules of our application. In that case, we're gonna create a folder for users. And now we're gonna create the repositories. Inside repositories, we're gonna have our users repository. repository.ts, and now we're gonna import from typeorm our entity repository and our repository. We're gonna also import. I forgot something. We're gonna need an information about all the things that we need to create for user creation. So we're gonna create here what we call DTOS. DTOs are basically data transfer objects, which is in that case I will be using them to as an interface to inform us the data that we need to create an user. So I create user DTO.ts, which is export. I like to do an interface. I create user DTO, which will be an email and a password. And now we export default I create user DTO, and in here we're gonna import from DTO / I create user DTO. We're gonna also import here our user from entities / user. And we don't have this set up, but I'm going to create it right now. So basically, as I told you before, the entities are the tables. So we got here our table, which with those 5 columns, and I'm going to create our entity based on this. So we gotta have here our entities. Inside our folder entities, we're gonna have our user entity. So we're going to import here from typeorm our entity, which is a decorator to represent that this class over here is an entity of typeorm. We're going to also need our primary generated column. We're gonna also need our column. All of these things are decorators. Our create date column and our update date column. Now we're gonna have our entity of users, which will be a class called name user, with our primary generated column, which will be a UUID with the ID that is a string. We also will need you see this over here. It's basically because we have to add configuration on our tsconfig.json that is called strict property initialization. This one over here, I have to set it for false because every class in TypeScript you gotta need to have a constructor property initialization. So you just have to add this to get rid of this error. Now we have our column, which is name, which is a string, but it's not name, it's mail. Now we have our other column, which is our password, which also is a string. And now we have our create date column. This is our created at, which is a date, and our updated column, which is updated at, which also is a date. So now we have our entity done. We're just gonna export it over here. Okay. Export default user. we're gonna import on our repository, and we're gonna create our repository right now. It's an entity repository of an user. It is a class users repository extends repository of user type. Oh my god, I'm supposed to do that. User type. And now we're gonna have our methods over here. So we got a public method, async find by email, which will receive our email, which is a string. It's a promise that will return for us user or undefined, and we're gonna have a user await this dot find one, and we pass our email, and then we return our user. So this basically will try to find a user with the email that receives it by parameter, and if it found this user, it will return it for us. But if it don't, it will return undefined. Now we're gonna have other method here called create user. It will receive I create video. It will receive an email password, and it will create our user this dot create. I'm gonna pass this to create the user, and then we're gonna do await, because this method is gonna create the user and also save it on our database, because this just create the instance of the user. You know, this user is a user, so we gotta save this. So do save and pass our user, and then return user. So now we have our two methods over here. We have our two methods over here created, so we can check this out of our to-do list. What we're gonna be doing right now is my favorite part, because it's the service, is the user service. And what is a service? Basically, a service is where all the business logic of the applications stays. So if you got an application that is for for people who is not underaged, so is people older than 18 years old, what you should do is that this business rule should be on the service. So when the person create the account and they inform the age, you should check it if the age of the person is lower or bigger than 18. If it's bigger, it's okay to create an account. If it's lower, it's not okay to create an account. So you put this rule, this if statement, this rule, you put this on your service, all the rules. This was just an example. So the only rule that we're gonna have it here is that you cannot create an account with the email that already exists on our database. So we're gonna check this on our service. So we create the services over here, services, and the file called create user service.ts. Another important thing over here is that each service contains only one method that is based on the thing he do. So this create user service will only create user. The create user service will not update an user, will not have a method to update an user. The create user service will not have a method to delete an user. Each service should take care of only one thing. So this service that we are creating over here will take care of creating a user, okay? Not updating the user, not deleting the user, not do anything else with the user, only create it. So what we will be needing is we're gonna import from typeorm our get custom repository over here. We're gonna import also our user from our entities, and we're gonna import our repository repositories, our user repository. Okay, now we're gonna create an interface over here called requests DTO email string. Our password is just a string. Let me just correct it over here. And I'm gonna have our class, which is create users repository service. Sorry. Create users service. Now we have a private users repository, which is the get custom repository of users repository, and public async execute email password from I request DTO, which will return for us a promise with a user that has been created. And now we're gonna check if our user exists. So user exists. I'll wait this dot users repository dot find by email, passing our email. This is the method that we create in our repository a few minutes ago. Oh, sorry. And now we're gonna check if user exists, role new error user already exists. If user don't exist, we're gonna create it. So const user equal await this dot user repository dot create user and passing our email and our password, and I'm gonna return it for us. I'm gonna export. I'm gonna export it. Export full. Create users first, and now we're gonna create our route to connect with our database. As I explained, I think I explained this on last video, but to make sure that I will explain it again. So basically, our routes is the way that we use to communicate with our API. It exposes some paths that you use to connect with it. You use to send information, and you also use to retrieve information, update, and delete. So what we're gonna have to do here is import from Express our router. From Express, we're gonna create a user router that is router. We're gonna also need users. Should put this in plural. User router dot post on the path slash users. We're gonna have async request response. And now we're gonna do this. We are gonna get our we're gonna get our email and our password from our request dot body. We're gonna also make new instance, create user, which is a new, create user service, and then we're gonna const user create await create user dot execute, passing the email and the password for it. I'm gonna return our response dot status 201 dot JSON with our user. So basically, this will return for us. We create a user and return for us a user. Cool. But there is a point over here. If we return the user like this way, we're gonna return our password, and this password is a sensitive data. So I'm gonna show for you guys how to don't return this password over here, because if you cannot like show this sensitive data that way. It's not a good practice at all. It's not good at all. So don't do that. Don't return a user or any other thing with sensitive data over here. Don't return information with sensitive data. So for that, we're gonna add here a library that I like a lot that calls class transformer, and it gives us some decorators that we can use, and the decorator that I like the most is one called exclude. So just finish install it over here, call exclude. So the decorator over here basically exclude the information and don't let it be returned. You can also expose information. You can also do a lot of things with this library, but for now we're just gonna use the exclude decorator. And now here in our server, what we're gonna be doing app.use express.json, so that our app can receive JSON, and we're gonna also use express. Let me just export default our root users router, and here we're gonna import users router from modules users routes user router, and then our app will use it. User router. Now everything should run just fine. One thing that I'm forgotten. We gotta need a file to connect with our database. So inside typeorm, I'm gonna create an index file. I'm gonna import from our typeorm. Create connection file or create connection method, and then you just run this method over here, and we import it all in our server. Import from shared typeorm, and that should run just fine. Let me just do the connection before everything. So okay, that should run just fine. If you run yarn dev, okay, our server started, and if you go to our Insomnia over here, and okay, let's go Insomnia. You can open whenever you want. Don't need to rush. Oh my god, a lot of errors. This because sometimes Insomnia crashes, but that's okay. So we're gonna test it over here. I've already tested before because I was trying to. I was doing this application just for the video. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna send a request to this URL over here, which is the one that our server is on the port 3333, in the dot slash in the slash users road that we created, and just send this information and bang. So one thing that happens over here, it returns for us our password when shouldn't return, because I forgot to wrap this user inside our class to class. When you use the decorator of class transformer, it will only apply if you wrap the information that you want to get as response inside of class to class. So I forgot this, but it will be good. So we can try again. So we will see the error. We can see the error over here. User already exists. So what we're gonna be doing over here is we're gonna delete this user. I'm gonna try it again. So we delete the user. Now we send, and we don't receive the password anymore. So we have our user in here. So that's it for this video. On the next video, I will show you how to hash this password, because you cannot save a password inside a database like this one over here. You shouldn't done that. It's illegal. Don't do that. So it's prohibited. I prohibit you. So that's it. Let me just check this over here and check this over here. We finish our video, we create our user. On the next video, I will show you how to treat errors like this one over here to make so that you can receive a message that is more beautiful. It's a beautiful message. And I will show you how to hash this password over here, so you will not save the password in your database as like this one. So I think that's it. If you like the video, please leave a like, leave a comment. I'm sorry about my English. As I told you, I'm trying to learn more. If you don't understand something, please leave on the comments. You can call me on Discord, you can call me on LinkedIn, you can find me in whatever place you want. You can just send me a message and I'll try to explain everything. And that's it. If you like the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. It will help me